everyone. My name is Rufus Thibodeaux. Welcome to another episode of Promise and Purpose, where we talk about the transformative power of God's Word and how that links to us discovering our purpose and unlocking our untapped potential. And today I'm here with Nathan Turner, and we're going to continue our conversation about how aligning yourself with the promises of God leads to a deeper understanding of your purpose and the potential that lies on the inside of you. So, Nathan, thank you for joining me today. I
Absolutely.
I don't know if I shared this story with you, man, but I interviewed someone on my podcast one time
Uh-huh.
whose name was Nathaniel Turner.
Okay.
And so and I had some other questions for him after we did the episode. So I sent him, well, I thought I was sending him a text message, but I
Yeah.
sent it to you.
Okay.
And which is crazy because it was like Nathaniel, and I was so confused. What is happening here, Nathaniel? So, is your full name Nathaniel, or is it Nathan?
It's just Nathan, actually. So
Really? That is
yeah,
so
that's
crazy,
really
man.
funny.
Yeah, but it was a very weird experience. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So why don't we get going, man? Why don't you just start by like introducing yourself, and then share a little bit about your background and the work that you do.
Yeah, you bet. So yeah, Nathan Turner. I live up in Canada. I live just
Okay.
outside of Calgary, Alberta, which is for anybody who's trying to piece that where that is, it's just above Montana. So we are
Huh.
a little over an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes away from Banff. If people have heard of that, that's
Okay.
absolutely gorgeous area. We love going there. And in fact, even before that, it's split out just a little tangent, but it's so pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the Rocky Mountains are fantastic, just an absolutely beautiful place. And it's really funny because the landscape goes from really flat, some rolling small hills, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden the mountains just start. Like
Wow.
literally just all of a sudden they're there. There's the Kananaskis River, and on the other side of the river, the mountains just ascend out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So that first region is Kananaskis. We go there actually more often. It's a little bit closer, and then beyond that's Banff. Banff is gorgeous, and anybody who's ever looking to check it out, you really should. That's a bucket list item for sure. Anyway,
Nice.
total tangent, but that's where I live, and so we love that.
Okay, cool.
Um, I'm in a real estate related industry. So what it is I buy mortgage notes.
Okay.
So instead of buying the house, I just buy the mortgage that's attached to that house.
Yeah.
So in essence, I become the lender instead of a homeowner.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
that's kind of the short version of that, but
Sure.
that's
Yeah. You could dive in deeper, I'm sure, because it gets pretty complicated. That's pretty
yeah.
high level stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting because so as you know, I had a background in real estate, and so I started doing a lot of creative real estate financing, which is it's a step above. I mean, you have to know a little bit more about the how the pieces come together before you can be a little bit creative and say, hey, you know what, I know it,
Yeah.
you normally do it this way, but let's take this piece and exchange this piece, and that's how, so
Yeah.
do you buy and hold property, then you're hanging on to the stuff that you do?
Mostly, yeah. So I actually run an investment fund. We raise capital from people, investors. They get into that, and then the fund itself is actually a 5-year term.
Okay.
So we're at least hanging on to it for 5 years. The eventual goal is anything that we buy for the fund, I want to be buying that myself at the end of the
Yeah,
term
got it.
and put it into my personal portfolio.
Nice. What's so funny is that so early in my career, I mean, mostly what I did was flip properties, okay, and I
Yeah.
I got to that point from just representing buyers and sellers as a traditional real estate agent. I'm talking, this was like in the 90s, so this is like the dark
Okay.
ages.
Yeah.
And so, but I thought it was pretty cool because you know, I wasn't just making, like, as an example, I might make, maybe 5 grand on a, representing a buyer and seller kind of deal. Then I
Sure.
saw that maybe flipping a house, maybe the seller, like on that, the settlement statement, the seller was making maybe 105,000 or two hundred and
Yeah.
five thousand. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
I need to be a seller. So I
Yeah.
started kind of on the seller, buying and selling end, but I didn't hang on to a lot of properties myself. And that's like
Okay.
monopoly. It's like you can have big old stack of money, but if you don't own the property, you're not collecting any money. Eventually,
Yeah.
you're gonna be gone.
No,
So
exactly.
anyway, so I'm
Yeah.
glad to learn. I could shift gears and young enough to be able to make some changes and still have time to do that. You know what I mean? So anyway,
Yeah,
that's another
good.
tangent, but we're definitely gonna have to talk about that. Um, so I didn't know that Canada's close to Montana.
Yeah, so we're I'm a little bit up from the border, but if we go straight south,
Yeah,
as soon as I hit the US border, it turns into Highway 15.
yeah.
And then that just goes straight through Montana, down through Idaho, Utah, Arizona.
Wow, I
And then,
never knew that. Interesting,
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about your journey, man. I'd love to know, like how have you dealt with like feelings of unfulfillment and disconnection from your potential? And I want to dig into your purpose and all that stuff a little bit later. But how have you dealt with those types of feelings? And then what strategies did you find effective in overcoming that kind of stuff?
You know, life can be hard,
Oh man, you
you
telling
know?
me? Yeah,
Life can be hard. So, goodness. So, I mean, I grew up going to church. My parents both, found God and started going to church before I was born, which I'm really grateful for because
sure.
that gave me a great childhood. Um, and we're very strong in our church. We were, lots of service, lots of things that we were doing all the time. It seemed like, and it's just a great environment, And then as you get older, you kind of got to shift from doing it because mom and dad say so to
Right,
what am
right.
I going to do? What am I choosing to do?
Sure.
So for me, I think really kind of the earliest time where I really needed to know for myself.
Yeah,
It was right around the time I was turning 17. It was right around my birthday, I think, that spring. Uh, so I was 16, 17, and I was like, I gotta know. I
yeah,
gotta know what's going on. I gotta know, where's God and how do I connect?
yeah,
With study and prayer, eventually it came to a point where I was like, no, yeah, this is for real.
yeah.
It's all there. God's there and he loves me and he's got my best interest in heart. So really from there, I think once you get that kind of a confirmation, you can move forward with confidence and with faith.
Yeah.
And that's really been kind of the pattern for the life. That doesn't mean everything's always been easy. That
Oh,
doesn't
right, sure.
there hasn't been, roller coaster hiccups, but in the back of your mind, if you know that God's there and he's got your back, you're good to go.
Yeah, confidence is everything, right? I mean,
Yeah.
knowing he's there, yeah, it makes a huge difference. Can you share or think of a story where I mean, a specific instance where you
Yeah.
struggled to apply, biblical principles to your everyday life and kind of how did you ultimately overcome that?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Yeah.
From that early age, I kind of dedicated myself. And so
Okay.
I don't know that there's been a time of any major struggle,
Okay.
maybe little things here and there,
Sure.
but it was a decision early on in my life where, no, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to apply my life.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know that there's been any major struggles really since then, just
Sure.
minor things here and there.
Sure. So you grew up in church. Were your parents like pastors, or were they involved in church, or what role did they play?
Kind of, yeah. My
Yeah.
my dad was a teacher,
Okay.
and he was actually employed by the church. So
Ah, okay.
he taught religion classes,
Okay.
um, and full time. So that was
Hmm.
his full time job, and
Okay.
in fact, that's what I kind of thought I was going to be going into as I got
Really?
older. Yeah, and then I even applied and everything. I went through the whole process, substitute taught for I think 2 years, and then
Okay.
and then had my own class and teaching teenagers and so I thought that was going to be kind of the pattern for my life, and then I didn't get hired. That was a tough one. That was one of those moments where
I'm
I was
sure.
like, I'm doing everything right. I know I am.
Right.
So why isn't the plan coming together the way that I think it should?
Yeah.
Uh, so that was a moment where it took
Yes.
some trust and just to go. And by that time I was married and a lot of soul searching and discussions with my wife and just trying to figure out, okay, if that's not the plan, if that's
Yeah.
not God's plan for me, then what? And
Yeah.
that took some time to figure that out.
Those are, man, those are the toughest because it's easy when things are going good. I know what you know what I mean.
Sure.
In fact, it's a scripture, which
Yeah.
reminds me of scripture that says, I believe it's in Corinthians. It says that God puts treasures, and I'm putting this in my own words, puts treasures
Sure.
in earthen vessels, so
Mm,
that so that basically people can see that it's Him that's behind everything. Because often I
right.
wonder that God uses imperfect people.
Yes.
And you look in the Bible in particular, the line that Jesus came from. I mean, those were, man. You talk about, matter of
Yeah.
fact, we're doing a meeting with some guys who were studying. Well, we just finished studying the life of Joseph, and you
Right.
talk about a dysfunctional family. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And I was
yes.
like, dude, I
Yeah.
could totally relate. So anyway,
Yeah.
he uses imperfect people, which is
Yeah.
obviously really encouraging. But when when things are going good, it's easy to trust him. Oh man, everything's great. I love the
Yeah.
Lord. Everything's great. But like
Yeah.
you said, when you're like, hey, praying for something and it doesn't happen, it's like, now what? You know what I mean?
And good desires. I wanted to teach the word. Like that's what I wanted to do. So like what could be better than that,
What
right?
could be better than that? Well, you know what? My father died about 8 years ago. And it's
Okay.
interesting. I didn't realize it was 8 years until I read the obituary for the first time like 3 weeks ago, which
Wow.
was because it was a real tough situation. But
Yeah.
that's one of the things kind of like what you're talking about, where it's like, because he had cancer, but he's
Okay.
a pastor. You know what I mean? It's like it's
Yeah.
my dad. I mean, how closer can you get to the Lord? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we prayed and we were thinking, hey, it's gonna be good. And he had ups and down times, but hey, I'm sure it'll be good. And he died. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So anyway, but I think in those tough times, that's when you learn the most, I think, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So they're tougher, but it's but they're huge schools of learning.
Yeah.
So in getting to who you are today, man, like what role has community played for you? Is community a pretty important part?
Huge.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Um, so I mean, huge. In our church, it's very much it's lay clergy. Like nobody's
Mm,
paid to do anything. We switch
okay.
around roles all the time
Yeah,
and responsibilities. And so it really builds that sense of community where one day I could be in charge of the men of the congregation.
gotcha.
And then the next day, I could be teaching teenagers on Sunday. And the
Yeah.
next time, I'm the one handing out hymnals. And it just whatever. And
Anything in
there's
between,
no
sure. Yeah.
yeah, so there's never any, there's not really a sense of hierarchy, I would say, but it's
Mm,
just it builds that community sense
okay.
where we're all working together towards the same goal.
Yeah.
How much can we just do to get it together? That's it.
Yeah, yeah, it makes a big difference. Communities. I didn't really even understand, even growing up in church,
Hmm.
there's a scripture. I knew all the lingo, don't forsake the assembly of yourselves together and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I didn't know what it really meant. But again, I think when you need help or when you can draw on that is when you can really understand the power of that. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
so we talked a little bit about real estate, and I definitely want to have another conversation with you about that. But
Yeah.
how did you determine your purpose? How did you figure out, kind of discover your sense of purpose? And what advice would you give to other people that are sort of still, searching for a deeper sense of meaning and satisfaction in their lives?
In life or job or in what sense?
I would say
Anything?
both. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, and whatever sense. I mean, in life,
Yeah.
I guess maybe primarily, but also job. Sometimes they connect, sometimes they don't, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, so all of that. Yeah.
I think it just I was thinking about it just recently, actually. So what made me think of it yesterday, I went for a run in the morning.
Okay.
And as I was in the shower, and it just, one of those shower moments where that's
Yeah.
where I tend to reflect.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thought came to me that I can't, if I do the exercise, it only benefits me. So
Hmm.
I can't exercise and that benefits my wife or my
Yeah.
kids or anybody else.
Yeah.
And the thing that kind of came clear to me is like it's you have to do it for yourself.
Right.
So and that doesn't mean you can't get advice. That doesn't mean you can't get
Sure.
help from others.
Sure.
Uh, but it does mean that you have to do the work. You have to be the one that's putting in the time, effort, sweat and tears, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, so that being said, I think that's the advice is like, don't depend on somebody else to do this for you.
Okay.
Your relationship with God is up to you.
Right.
Uh, Nobody can pray for you. I mean, they can
Yeah.
pray, for your whatever benefit,
Sure.
but they can't form that relationship for you. Only you can do that.
Right. Right. Right.
But that was just, I think that was just yesterday. That was the thought that kind of came to me, and
Well, I mean, it
got
is
to do it on your own.
crazy. You
Mhm.
have to, but in the process is painful. It can be painful, but
Can be, yeah.
the result is what you're after. But like, so how long have you been a real estate investor?
Uh, in like real estate in general,
Yeah,
gosh, about 17 years, something
that's
like
a
that.
long time. Okay.
Yeah,
Would
over
you
15
say
maybe.
would you say that is who you are? I mean, obviously, your father sounds like you got
Yeah,
kids too, but I
yeah,
mean, is that primarily your purpose? That's what you've been called to do in this world?
yeah, in a big way. I think that's a big part of it. What I like about, there's a lot of things, but one of the things
Okay.
I like about what I do is part of note investing. Inherent in it is we're able to help people that are struggling.
Okay.
So between like 2010 and 2020, so about those 10 years, all I was buying was non-performing notes. So
Okay.
meaning the person living in the house was not making any payments.
Okay.
And it could be a situation where they're still living there. It could be a situation where maybe they passed away, so there's nobody living there. It could be a situation where they just abandoned the house. We had that often.
Okay.
Um, but I'll tell you how it was so rewarding.
Yeah.
Anytime we could have a conversation, almost every single time we were able to figure out something.
Yeah.
So they weren't able to make payments because of whatever. They
Sure.
lost a job, a spouse died, whatever, something. And almost every time we're able to say, okay, so that's not working. What we've got on paper today isn't working. So how can we make this work? And we're
Mm.
able to come together on some terms. And the ultimate goal always is to keep people in their house.
Sure.
Then the kind of the secret of that is not only is it a nice thing to do, the right thing to do, but it's actually the most profitable. So we're
Really?
totally motivated to help people stay in
Yeah.
their homes. And like I said, this is not just me, but investors in general. We all pretty much have the same attitude. Like we're there to help. We're able to help people. So in that way, that's been very rewarding. You know, Professionally and personally as well.
Yeah.
Just knowing that I'm out there helping people, and
Totally.
I think definitely, there's definitely an element there where, kindness begins with me, and how can I
Yeah.
help people today?
Sure. So, how did you discover that that was what you loved, and how did you even get into that? I mean, was it on
Yeah,
purpose? I mean, you can't take a note investing class. Well, I guess you can kind of now, but
you
maybe
can now. Yeah,
18 years
yeah,
ago, 20 years ago, you know what I
yeah,
mean? How did you figure that out?
yeah. It's right time, right place, and
Okay.
talking to the right people. And it was a situation where I had networked into a group of investors. They had bought these 60 properties, mostly in the Midwest.
Okay.
Uh, the original intent was they were going to buy this portfolio and then sell it out to somebody else. And they bought this in April of 2007. So
Oh,
like
of
the
course.
top of the market.
Yeah.
So by the fall of 2008, things had gone totally sideways. That deal didn't pan out. And the instruction that I got was, okay, here's a power of attorney, no operating budget, but do what you can, figure
Mm.
out how to, get some lemonade out of these lemons.
Okay.
And that was it. And so it was my old partner and I, that was our charge.
Okay.
So we kind of thought we'd invented seller financing. We were like, oh, here's a cool
Right.
idea.
Sure. Right.
But that's kind of where it started. And then I did actually go and take a class down in Texas. The guy was talking about purchasing the same kind of contracts that I was creating.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, this is perfect. This is my outlet.
Sure.
This is how we can sell these. And
Yeah.
and so I went down and kind of got some training from him. That introduced me into my first conference all about note investing down in Louisiana, and just kind of took off from there. Started meeting people, talking to people, and I think the one that really just clicked for me
Yeah.
was the first time I bought some non-performing notes was in 2010. And it was a package of 3 different notes on 3 different properties, all in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
And they're all vacant properties. So I'm like, okay, at the time I was much more real estate minded.
Sure.
My idea was I wanted to go and talk to the borrowers, the person that owed the money,
Hmm.
and I was going to offer them an exchange where I would wipe out the loan, and in exchange they would just give me the property, just deed it
Gotcha.
over to me.
Okay.
And which is a fairly common thing to do, and that's definitely a strategy. And is the girl that I knocked on her door, and she lived across town, and this was a rental place that she had bought.
Okay.
The intention of, renting out, and it sounded great, I'm sure at the time, when the economy was doing great and everything
Yeah.
else. It was a zero down payment loan, all those kinds of things.
Sure.
And after I made my little pitch, my little offer, she broke down in tears, and she's like, you would do that? And
Wow.
I did not expect that kind of reaction. And that's when it occurred to me, like, I'm actually out here solving problems.
Yeah.
And it's really a really concrete way to help people. And so that changed my attitude about the whole approach. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, this is the stuff. This is it.
It's just this is crazy because so I try to keep this short. I from the time that my dad died, I've been trying to I sort of got disconnected from a lot of stuff, from my purpose,
Sure.
from my, connection with God. And I've been trying to find my way back, kind of. I didn't
Okay.
really know that I was that lost, but I was.
Yeah.
So anyway, over the last 18 months, I've gotten so many answers. It's been incredible.
Mm.
And one of the things that's been happening is that I thought God wasn't listening to me. I thought he forgot about me. I'm putting out prayers. He's not answering them.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
learned that he he was talking, but I wasn't listening. And I
Okay.
also was trying to, it was like kind of like we were talking about earlier. This is what I want you to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm praying for you to do this.
Yeah.
And that may not be the thing that he wants to do or the right thing. And he
Yeah.
doesn't, he's not responding the way that I think he should respond. So I'm done. I'm like, oh, you're not speaking to me. So
Yeah.
what I started to learn is where he's at and how he's speaking. And as I've been doing that, I've been connecting, and it's been life changing. But the point is, I've been taking strategic steps, like just out of promptings, like, you know what, I think I
Yeah.
should do this. I should think that.
Yeah.
And so the stuff that you're talking about is exactly what I've been feeling. So I found where I sort of went off my path of purpose. As I mentioned
Hmm.
to you earlier, I was a real estate broker,
Hmm.
and I got into that because I was in college. I did some internships for nonprofit real estate companies,
Okay.
and they'd fix old houses and renovate them and sell them to first time home buyers. So I
Okay.
had no
Yep.
idea. Just like, again, 1990, had no idea what a mortgage was, nothing about
Yeah.
nothing about that stuff.
Yeah.
And so to me, it was just, and they had a lot of first time home buyer programs, no down payment, all this stuff. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, this is, and all the people around me were renters. So I was
Okay.
like, man, this is, I can help all these people. And that
Yeah.
developed into me. Again, I started off not having a license, but then I got a license to help to do the work that I was doing. Then I got a broker's license, started a real estate company, and it was growing
Hmm.
just based upon me helping people solve problems, just like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But then I started chasing the money. I
Okay.
started seeing, hey, it wasn't about the helping of the person. It was
Okay.
about, on this deal, I only make maybe 10 grand, but this one I can make 100,000. And I was just
Wow.
like, just about the deal, and who cares what happens to the people, kind of. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
And so that was a house of cards, and so learned a lot of lessons.
Yeah.
And so recently, even when I was explaining to you, hey, I want to get back in the game, I I just rediscovered my purpose, and I'm trying to get
Yeah.
back to that, and it's in helping people in a lot of different ways, but one of them is with real estate and helping
Yeah.
them to solve problems. And so the language that you're talking is exactly what I've
Yeah.
been feeling. So again, we'll have to talk about that. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so it's crazy how things just sort of connect. But anyway, so as a as an entrepreneur, I mean, image obviously is important and in what you
Yeah.
do, seeing yourself. So
Yeah.
what do you do to cultivate a positive self-image? In fact, have you heard there's a book called Cybernetics? Have you heard of Cybernetics? Okay. Anyway,
No.
it's a
Okay.
book that talks about the power of self-image and how that connects to you solving your goals. It's actually a good book. I'll send you the link to it. But anyway,
Yeah.
what do you
Yeah.
do to cultivate a positive self-image and and what strategies would you recommend to other people to do that?
Just about myself.
Yeah.
Um, I
Do you feel like you have a good self-image? I mean, you feel pretty.
yeah, I think I do. I think really one of the keys is trying to see myself the way that God sees me.
Yeah, makes sense.
Um, and there are times when I beat myself and I'm like, man, that's stupid, and oh,
Sure.
that's a dumb thing to do or whatever. But
Yeah.
that's not how that's not how he speaks. That's not how he sees me.
Yeah.
And so it's a reminder. And oftentimes it's my wife that points that out and come on.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting. I think I've often said that the voice of God sounds amazingly like our wife's voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
how long have you been married?
We are going on 23 years.
Nice.
We'll be we're just yeah, about 22 and a half now, a little over the half. This
Okay.
December will be 23.
That's great. Congratulations, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
My parents used to compare the years of marriage to years of life. So if you've been
Okay.
married, 5 years, basically like a 5-year-old,
Yeah.
18 years, 18-year-old. So 23 years, I mean, you're grown,
I'm a young man.
you're a
Yeah.
young man, right? Right. Nice. And you mentioned kids, you have kids, right?
Yeah, 3 kids.
Are they what are the girls or boys?
I got 2 girls. My 2 oldest are girls, and the youngest is a boy.
Okay. Are they involved with real estate at all or no?
No, I wish I could get them interested,
Are
but
they not interested?
my middle daughter gets it.
Okay.
But for now, I mean, she's great. She's smart as a whip. She's talking about
Yeah.
going into medicine and
Nice.
I don't know, all kinds of different things. We'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
she actually understands it. She actually came out um, so I run a conference as well. I don't know if I
You
told you about
shared.
that.
Yeah. You were talking a little bit
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
So we run a conference all about mortgage note investing, and we just ran it this past June, and she came out and was our helper, and so
Nice.
she was most of my wife's helper,
Okay.
and just go for whatever we needed, and she was little miss on the spot, and she got it done, so that was good.
Yeah. Interesting. And you mentioned something about Louisiana. Do you have your conferences in Louisiana or you had them before in Louisiana? Is that what it was?
I only went to that one in Louisiana,
Oh,
but
got it. Okay. Got it.
mine mine is actually in Nashville,
Okay.
and yeah, tons of fun. We like getting together and just talking shop and
Yeah.
networking, all that fun stuff.
Nice. You mentioned your daughter helping your wife. Is your wife involved in there too? Business?
She is, I mentioned that when I first started in notes, I had a partner
Yeah.
and we worked together for 5 or 6 years. And then he had another opportunity and I wanted to keep doing what I was doing. And it was at that point, my wife and I were like, okay, so what do we do going forward here? And we had worked together before when we had different business.
Yeah.
And eventually we just kind of came around to it and he said, you know what? We've always been the best team. So
Mm.
let's just do that. So it's she and I, she's out in the other room working away and doing things. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a huge help.
Nice. That is good. Yeah, my wife and I work together as well, and she's kind of the boss. I always say she's management, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of the labor force. So this
Yeah.
is it works better than it works good that way.
Yeah.
So let me ask, man, we talked about a few different things, scriptures back and
Yeah.
forth. What would you
Yeah.
say is like the one Bible promise that really has been instrumental in helping you to really become who you are today? I mean, it could be more than one, but what would you say is that promise?
Oh, goodness me. Um, I like in Matthew after the Sermon on the Mount and Christ is there and he talks about becoming perfect.
Hmm.
And and when I was younger, that was kind of an intimidating thing, and like being perfect, like that's
Yeah.
impossible. Nobody can do that. As I've gone along and done more research and learned more, what I've learned is that the word that they use in scriptures is translated from Greek
Yeah.
teleos, meaning be complete.
Nice.
I'm like, that's different. That I
Way
can do.
different. Way
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being commanded to be perfect is a lot more challenging than being complete.
Oh, 100%.
And if
100%.
I can be complete, that's good. And so
Yeah.
that's what I strive to do. And and here's the thing I'll add to that is
Okay.
we talk about balance in life.
Yeah.
I was listening to one of our church leaders, and he was speaking and talking about this idea of balance. And you got your work life, family life, church life, and all these different roles that you play in community and everything else. And how do you keep balance?
Yeah.
And he just kind of laughed and he said, "You can't. There's no
Mm.
such thing as perfect balance."
Sure.
And he compared it to those circus guys where they've got the spinning plate.
Yeah.
And he said, it's like that. You've got, six plates spinning. One of them's work, one's family, one's, community, whatever it is. And as one starts to teeter and fall, you
Yeah.
pay more attention to that one.
Gotcha.
And then that one's going good. And then the family one, that needs more attention. So you give more attention to that one. And then the church one, that needs more attention. You give more attention to that one. So don't expect to be in perfect balance all the time. It's
Yeah.
always a juggling act, and recognizing that sometimes you're going to have to spend more time and attention on one aspect of your life than another, and that's okay.
Yeah. And
So, and
that's a
again,
great
being
analogy.
complete. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
Well, I
that
mean,
was great. That was,
well, like you said, the difference between striving to be perfect and striving to be complete. I
yeah.
mean, it's totally different.
Yeah.
One is doable, one is, not so doable.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. There's one other thing I mentioned about the Sermon on the Mount, that you mentioned that in the
Mhm.
message. Well, first of all, understanding the background language helps
Right.
tremendously. That's why I
Yes.
try not to. Do you have a favorite translation that you like to read from,
I mostly
listen
read
to?
King James,
Do you?
but I've been more intrigued with the new translation.
Okay. I do like King James. That's what I kind of grew up with, but I
Yeah,
try
me
to,
too.
yeah, I was going to say the Message translation of the Sermon on the Mount is really
Yeah.
good. The one part that I really like is when he talks about, he compares a smart contractor and a stupid contractor.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and he basically just says, you take the word and you have to apply it to your everyday life. That's
Yeah.
really a smart, that's how you avoid building a house on the sand, and that's going to be kind of a house of
Right.
cards, kind of like I did with my real estate business years ago. But
Right.
anyway, yeah, translation is important, and but that's great. So do you have any last comments, man, before we wrap it up here and what leave it?
Keep going, keep
Keep
going, keep
going.
going, keep going. I think one of the things that's helped me so much is, when things are tough and you're facing a challenge or something,
Yeah.
take the bigger picture
Hmm.
and like everything, where we came from, where we're going after this life, if you can think of it in those terms, it's a way bigger picture. And our time here on earth is a dot.
Yeah.
So that's okay. So whatever you're going through right now, like if our entire lifetime is a dot, like we're talking a pinprick, like it's
Right.
nothing. So if you can kind of get that perspective, I think that helps to say, no, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. Keep moving forward.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. Well, I appreciate your time. You've sparked I've got all kind of ideas in my head, because I felt like that, us reconnecting wasn't by accident.
Yeah,
And I'm excited just to learn all the other things that connection could mean. So definitely be looking out for another call or text or something from me, so that we could connect up and
sounds
talk
good.
more note stuff in particular. So, hey, well, good. Well, you enjoy your rest of your day. Have a great weekend, man. We'll talk again soon. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, buddy. You bet. Bye now.
Okay.
Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more. Hey, thanks again for tuning in today. And until next time, stay aligned with God's promises and empowered by His word. We'll see you next time.